What is up, lovely people from the internet, and welcome to the second part of this VR multiplayer tutorial. In last video, we did the setup for the network player by synchronizing the position and animation of the hand, and in this video, I'm going to show you not only how we can let the player create or join a game automatically without any user interface, but how to do so in a secure and stable way with both relay and lobby. Now, of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. And if you'd like to get access to the source code and exclusive content, you can join my Patreon. But without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so here we were where we were left at the end of last episode. Now, at the moment for the connection to happen, we need to share the IP of the host, which is not a good thing to do and is not very secure. Secondly, because of the same reason, if you build the game and share it to your friends, the connection might not work. So to fix this and make sure that all connections are stable and secure, we are going to use a Unity services called Relay. So let's see how we can add it to our multiplayer VR game, and you will see it is very simple. The first thing we need to do is go to Windows, then Package Manager. Now let's make sure to select Unity Registry and let's search for Relay. We should see it over there. Let's select it and click on Install. Okay, so now that it is installed, as you can see, we have a Windows popping up to ask us to link our Unity project to Relay. Now, if you don't see this window, you can basically go into Edit, Project Settings, and then here on Services. We can then select an organization and then click on Create Project ID. And as you can see, this will create the project ID that we can use to link the Relay with the Unity services here. Now, that's not it. We also need to go on the Unity dashboard to enable Relay. So we can click here on Dashboard. And there it is. Now, after signing, you should see these windows with the VR multiplayer project that we have. And now what we need to do is click here to go back to the gaming services, then select multiplayer, and here we can see the Relay. Now, if we click on it, we can enable it by clicking on Get Started, Next, Next, and Finish. And now, as you can see, Relay has been successfully set up and automatically enabled on our project. So what's left is to go back to Unity. There we go, we can close the project settings and the package manager. And the next thing that we want is go to our network manager. And here, if we go to our Unity Transport, change the protocol type from Unity Transport to Relay Unity Transport. And there you go. Now all the settings are done for Relay. The last thing we need to do is, of course, use Relay when we create or join a game, and we will be able to do so inside the network connect script that we made in the last video. Okay, so because Relay is a Unity services, we need to make sure to authenticate to the Unity services before we use it. Now, to authenticate, what we can do is add at the top using unity.services.authentication and using unity.services.core. Beautiful. Now, what I'm going to do is very simply authenticate the player in the awake function, so at the start of the game, by doing unity services.initialize async and then authentication service.instance.sign in anonymously async. There we go. There is just one problem with this, is that the initialization can take some time. But both of these functions will happen at the same frame, which means that sometimes the authentication services might not fire correctly. Now, to fix this, we need to await for the end of the initialization before we can sign in. Now, lucky for us, the initialization is an async function, which means that we can await it. And to do so, let's write in front await. We can do the same for the signing anonymously. So as you can see, this will make sure that we finish to initialize the player before we start to signing. But as you can see, we have a little error because as we are using an asynchronous function, we need to add in front of void here async. And there you go, no more error. We can now successfully authenticate. So now the next step is to create the relay. Now, to create a relay, we need to go at the top and add two new namespaces. We can add the using unity.service.relay and the using unity.service.relay.models. Beautiful. Now in the create function, what I'm going to do is before we start the host, we need to create an allocation with allocation equals relay service dot instance dot create allocation async. Now, as you can see, the create allocation async takes as a parameter a certain number of connections. So what we can do is set it as a parameters in our game with public int max connection, and we can set it initially to 20 and give this max connection as the value here on our create allocation async. Now, there is a little issue is that the relay service create allocation async is an asynchronous function, as it was the case for the authentication, but you should know what to do next. We simply need to write await in front and add async before the void here. And as you can see, no more error. We are now able to create an allocation for our relay game. Now, once we have an allocation, the next step is to get a join code. We can do so with string new join code equals await relay service dot instance dot get join code async and give our allocation ID as a parameters. Now this join code is very important and is actually the way that Unity is handling a very secure multiplayer game, because when you are creating a relay, only the player that have the join code will be able to join it as well. So for example, after one of the player creates a relay game, he should share this join code to the other player who wants to join the game. But now, once we get the join code and that we have created the allocation for relay game, the last thing we need to do is set up the Unity transport component. Now, to get the Unity transport component, let's simply add at the top using unity.netcode.transport.utp. And I'm going to add a public Unity transport called transport. And now get ready because we have a lot of things to write to set up this transport. So let's do transport set host relay data. The first thing is the allocation.relay server.ipv4. The second is ushort allocation.relay server.port. Now let's go to the next line and write allocation.allocation ID bytes, allocation.key, and finally allocation.connection data. There you go. And with all of these settings, we should be able to set the host relay data before we start as a host and create our multiplayer game using our relay services. Okay, so this was for creating relay. Now to join relay, there are some things changing. So for example, the allocation is a join allocation that we can still call allocation and that we can get with await relay services dot instance dot join allocation async. Now, as you can see, the join allocation async this time needs the join code that is made by the host when he creates a relay game. So in my case, what I'm going to do is add at the top a public string called join code and add this join code for the parameters of this function. Now, the goal for me at this point is to easily test this relay with the join code. This is why I've added it as a parameter in our game, because next we will be able to set it up from the Unity inspector to easily test our relay services before improving it later on. Now, anyway, as there is an asynchronous function, we of course need to add a sync before the join here. And now that we have an allocation that we can join with the join code, we can do the same as here, which is set up the transport. So for this, I'm going to copy these two lines of code, paste them over there. And instead of set host relay, what we want is set client relay data. Now there is an error because it's just missing one parameters, which is an allocation.host connection data. And there you go. Now, in the same way as the create function, we have successfully made a join function, which will be able to join a relay game with the join code that we put in the Unity inspector and set up the Unity transport with it. Afterward, of course, start as a client. Now everything is working. We can go back to Unity. Now for the transport, let's simply drag the Unity transport over there. And there is just one thing missing at this point, is that if we want to test our game right now, and if we build it, we will not be able to see the join code that is created by the host. So an easy fix to do so is to go in the network connect And here, when we are creating a new join code, what I'm going to do is write it in the debug.log error, just like this. Now, because we are using a debug.log error, if we go back to Unity, then go to File, Build Settings, and enable here the development build. If we build our game, because we are showing the join code within the log error, it should show in our build as well. So let's see if this works by building our game and run 2 instances of it. Okay, so as you can see, I have 2 instances of my VR game working right now, one on the right and one within the Unity editor. So if I go on the right side and click on create, I should see here the debug code. So let's see. And there you go. As you can see, it worked. We can see the join code for the other player to join the relay and has successfully been able to connect with the relay game on the right side. So let's go to the Unity inspector. I'm going to go under our network manager. And so on the join code parameters, let's write the join code that we had on the host. And there you go. Now, if we click on join, we should be able to join the relay game that was made by the other players. Okay, and here we go. As you can see, I'm able to see another player in my game, which means that we successfully managed to set up a relay. Now, of course, right now, the setup using the join code in the Unity inspector is a bit annoying, but to fix this, we will use another amazing Unity services, which is called Lobby. So, what is a lobby? A lobby is a simpler and less powerful way to connect players between them. Now, the idea is to use the lobby connection to group players and share data, and then use it to start the relay. It can get really advanced by adding game mode, showing player info, but we are going to do this very simple by simply use it to automatically share the join code that was made by relay. So to install Lobby, it is a bit the same as Relay. We need to go to Windows, Package Manager, then on Unity Registry, let's search for Lobby. There it is, we can select it and click on Install. Okay, here you go. Now that it is installed, we need to go back to the Unity dashboard from earlier, and then instead of going to Relay, we need to go to Lobby and do a little bit the same as earlier, which is click on Get Start, Next, Next, Finish, and now as you can see, Lobby has been successfully set up and automatically enabled, so which means that we can go back to Unity, close the package manager and get started with it. Now, in my case, I'm going to select the network manager and go back to Network Connect. So to use Lobby, we need to add 2 new namespaces. The first one is using unity.services.lobbies, and the second one is using unity.services.lobbies.model. There you go. Now, to create a lobby, it is actually not that complicated. We can simply do this in one line of code. But first, before I forget, let me add just at the top a private reference to the current lobby. There you go. And with it, we can create the lobby with current lobby equals await lobbies.instance.create lobby async. Now, as you can see, this create lobby async needs a name. Now, in my case, I will simply give it the lobby name. Next, it needs a max number of players, so we can use the max connection from earlier. And there you go. As you can see, with just one line of code, we are able to create the lobby. But of course, the interest of creating a lobby is to be able to share some data between the players. And to do so, let's get started with the creation of the lobby option. For this, let's add a create lobby option called lobby options that we can initialize with new create lobby options. Now, as you guessed it, it is with this lobby option that we should be able to add some options to the lobby. The first one is to set the lobby option that is private to false to make sure that this lobby is public and can be seen by the other players. And next, we want to initialize the data within this lobby with lobby option.data equals new dictionary of string data object. Now, as you can see, the lobby option.data use a dictionary which will link a certain key with a data object, and the data object is the thing that interests us in our case because it is the thing that will hold the data within the lobby. Now, to create a new data object that we can call data object, we can simply do new data object. Here we can set the visibility of the object. In our case, we want it to be public. And finally, the last parameters is the data itself. So in our case, it will be the new join code. Beautiful. Finally, we can add this data object to the lobby option data with lobby option.data.add. So as I told you earlier, the lobby option data is a dictionary which needs a particular key to retrieve the data object. Now you can give any name you want for the key. In my case, I will call it join code and then give our data object. And there you go. Now that we've created all of the lobby option to kind of simply add a very easy join code string data within. The final thing is to add this lobby option when we create the lobby by simply put it as the last parameters of the create lobby async. And there you go. With all of this, we should be able to create a lobby and to add the join code as the lobby information within. Now, to be able to retrieve this information when we are joining, it is actually really easy as well. We can simply get the lobby with current lobby equals await lobbies dot instance dot quick join lobby async. Now, as the name suggests, quick join lobby async will try to get the first lobby that is available. Now, there is different way to join a lobby. For example, you can join a lobby by code. You can also join a lobby by a certain ID. But in my case, I'm going to do this very simple by simply joining the first available one, which will allow us to not use any code or ID. Now that we have joined a lobby simply using the quick join lobby async function, we can get the relay join code with string relay join code equals current lobby dot data. Then use the key that we use to create the data object. So join code, and finally use dot value. There you go. So this will retrieve the join code that was used when creating the lobby. Now, anyway, with this relay join code, we can use it when we join the allocation over there instead of the other join code. And it should allow us to share this join code between the players. Now, anyway, we can go at the top and simply remove the public string join code now, as we don't need it anymore. We can then save our script and let's go back to Unity to find out if we can now create and join a lobby without the join code thanks to our awesome lobby system. Okay, and here you go guys, now please to do some magic. As you can see, if I create a relay game on this end and go to the others, now as you can see, we don't need any join code and we can directly connect the two players between them simply with the create and join button. But of course, as a little gift for you guys before finishing this tutorial, for the one who are not interested in using any user interface, you can automatically create or join a relay service, and I'm going to show you how you can do this. Now, if we go back to our script, I'm simply going to create a new function called public void join or create. There we go. Then I'm going to select everything that is within the join function and paste it over there. Now there is an error because we need to add async in front of void here. And now the secret to join or create is to use a try and catch. So let's write try, paste everything within the try function, and then do catch. And in the case that we catch something, we want to call the create function. Now the try and catch simply works by if there is any error by trying to join a relay game or starting as a client, instead to throw the error, it will catch it and do what's within the catch here, which is, in our case, to create the allocation instead. Now, anyway, we can of course call this join or create in the awake function. In this way, it will make sure to automatically join or create at the start of our game. We can then save and go back to Unity. Now we can select our canvas, and as we don't need it anymore, I'm simply going to disable it. And now let's build our game to find out if this works. Okay, and as you can see on the right side, we can see a join code, which means that automatically it has created a relay game. Now let's see if we go on Unity and click on play, if we are able to join it automatically. And there you go, as you can see, we are now able to join the other player without any user interface automatically. This is awesome. Okay, so one last thing that I want to talk about is that sometimes if you wait too long before letting another player join the game, there can be some error. That's right. This is because if you don't send any data within the lobby system after 30 seconds, the lobby auto-destroys itself. This is of course a way for Unity to kind of prevent too many data to be sent within the lobby, but we can fix this error and make sure that the lobby is kept alive by using a heartbeat. Now, to create a simple heartbeat for our lobby, we can go in our Network Connect and add a private float heartbeat timer. There you go. Now we can go down below and create an update function. And if the heartbeat timer is greater than 15, what we want to do is heartbeat timer minus equals 15 to reset the timer. And if the current lobby is not null, so if we are connected to a current lobby and that we are the host of this lobby, which is the person that has created the lobby, now we can check this with host ID equals authentication service dot instance dot player ID. And in that case, we can do lobby service dot instance dot send heartbeat ping async and use our current lobby ID over there. Beautiful. Now, don't forget at the end to also update the heartbeat timer with heartbeat timer plus equals time.delta time. And there you go. With this simple timer check, we should make sure to keep the lobby alive for the other player to join afterwards. And there it is, guys. You can now test your game and share it to your friend, and without the need of any user interface, you will be able to connect together. Now, at this point, if you want to go further, I made an 8 hours long course as part of the VR Creator Academy, where we will look at more advanced features of VR multiplayer like avatar customization, lobby menu, and even building our own VR zombie multiplayer shooter. Link in the description. As always, you can get the source code of this video on my Patreon, as well as some exclusive content. Now, thank you for watching and see you soon. Bye bye.